I shouldn't remember that night as clearly as I do. But some memories don't fade. They cling. They stain. It started with a whisper. His whisper. Floating into the dark like it belonged there. My husband was asleep beside me, body heavy from a long day, snoring softly like he always did when exhaustion swallowed him whole. Our bedroom lights were off, the only glow coming from the hallway, where he stood. The man I should have never let into my home. The man who knew too much about my loneliness. The man who made my breathing turn uneven the moment he stepped closer. I didn't call his name. I didn't have to. His eyes said everything. He walked toward me like the darkness made him bold, like the quiet of my marriage stretched open a secret doorway just for him. And when his fingers brushed my wrist, soft, uncertain but hungry, it felt like something inside me cracked open, something I didn't know was still alive. That was the moment I knew. This story wasn't going to end clean. Or safe. Or holy. It was going to end in fire. Before I take you deeper into that night. Before I tell you how far things went and why I couldn't stop. Backhand index pointing right, please make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of this confession. This is for mature listeners only, my truth, my shame, my desire, all laid bare. Now, back to that night. He leaned close, his breath warm against my ear, and whispered the words that ruined every boundary I thought I still had. You don't have to pretend tonight. Something inside me trembled, guilt, desire, fear, all tangled. My husband shifted in his sleep. The bed creaked. And yet, I didn't pull away. The silence between us became a pulse. A slow, steady throb of temptation I could no longer deny. That was the night everything changed. The night I crossed a line I couldn't erase. The night he claimed me in ways I never expected, while the man who vowed to protect my heart slept inches away. And this. I have learned something about loneliness, it never knocks gently. It barges in. It rearranges your thoughts. It whispers your fears back to you until you start searching for warmth anywhere you can find it, even in forbidden places. That night still burns in my mind like a slow fire. My husband had fallen asleep early, again. He had been doing that for months, coming home tired, frustrated, dropping onto the bed like a log, leaving me awake, untouched, unseen. I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a ghost in my own marriage. And that was when my phone buzzed. A single message. From him. The man who had been circling the edges of my life like a quiet storm waiting to break. Are you still awake? Just those 4 words. But they cracked open something inside me, something hungry, forgotten. I hesitated. I watched my husband snore softly beside me, no clue that my heart was trembling. No clue that I was dangerously close to stepping into a night I would never forget. I typed back. Yes. Can't sleep. His reply was immediate. I told you, loneliness has a way of knocking. Let me keep you company. My breath hitched. I shouldn't have responded. I shouldn't have allowed temptation to breathe near me. But loneliness had already opened the door before I realized what I was doing. He called. Just his voice, deep, calm, and warm, sent a shiver all the way down my spine. You sound tired, he said softly. Or maybe, ignored. Ignore. That was the exact word I had been avoiding. I felt my throat tighten as I whispered back. I just feel alone. There was a small pause, like he was letting the truth settle between us. Then he said, in that voice that could melt steel. You don't have to be. Something in me broke open. I slipped quietly off the bed, tiptoeing into the living room. My heart was pounding as if I was doing something worse than talking. But we both knew it wasn't just talking anymore. Not with the way he listened. Do you want me there? He asked. My breath froze. My mind screamed no. But the part of me that had been starving, whispered yes. A quiet, trembling yes. And he heard it even though I didn't say it out loud. His next words were low, slow, and dangerous. "I'm coming." I stood near the window, hands shaking, staring at the empty street. The cool night air drifted inside, brushing my skin like a warning I refused to take. He arrived. Not knocking, just standing there, waiting, like he already belonged in my night. My pulse raced so loud I could feel it in my fingertips. Everything in me screamed that this was wrong. But everything in me also knew I wasn't going to stop it. When I opened the door, just a crack, he stepped forward slowly. And the way he looked at me made my knees weaken. As if he had been waiting for this moment longer than I knew. He whispered, "Your husband is asleep, right?" I nodded, barely breathing. He stepped closer. His fingers gently brushed my arm. And that simple touch sent shockwaves through every part of my body. Loneliness had opened the door. But he was the one who walked through it. And I didn't stop him. Not that night. Not when his presence filled my living room. Not when my heart began racing so fast I felt dizzy. This was the moment everything changed. This was the moment my night no longer belonged to me. It belonged to him. I wish I could tell you that I resisted him that night. I wish I could say I walked back into my bedroom, tucked myself beside my husband, and pretended the world was in order. But that would be a lie. And tonight, I promised you the truth. The night that shifted everything. My husband was already asleep, his soft snores slipping through the half-closed bedroom door. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes your thoughts louder than they should ever be. I stepped into the kitchen to get water. That's all I wanted. Just water. But he was there. Him. The man who had slowly become the shadow I shouldn't desire. Jonah. My husband's childhood friend. The man who'd been staying with us temporarily. The man whose eyes always lingered a second too long. And whose smile always felt like trouble dressed in gentleness. He stood by the counter, shirtless, the soft fridge light cutting across his chest like some kind of temptation spotlight. "Can't sleep?" he asked. His voice was low, too low. The kind that slips beneath your skin and settles there. My throat tightened. I just needed water. But he stepped closer, slow, deliberate, as if he already knew I wasn't leaving. The moment our boundaries shattered. He brushed past me, not touching, not yet. But his warmth grazed my arm like fire disguised as skin. "If you couldn't sleep," he whispered, "you should have told me." That sentence shouldn't have meant anything. But the way he said it. God, it meant everything. I tried to pass him. He caught my wrist, not hard, but enough to freeze time. "Do you ever feel," he murmured, "like you're living in a house where your heart is awake, but everything else is asleep?" My breath stilled. Because how do you answer that? When your truth is standing inches away, and your husband is snoring down the hall? "Jonah, don't," I whispered. He stepped closer, his forehead brushing mine. "Then tell me to stop," he breathed. I didn't. And that was my first sin. He kissed me, slow, devastating, the kind of kiss that steals more than breath. The kind that makes you forget your name, your vows, your reality. His hands held my waist. My fingers slipped into his hair. And just like that, I fell. Deep. Hard. Completely. While my husband slept peacefully. Jonah claimed the part of me I didn't even know was starving. The call to action break, as required. Kiss mark if you're still reading this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. These stories only get hotter, deeper, and more dangerous from here. Now, back to the chaos I created. The aftermath of trespassing. When it ended. When the fire finally slowed. I stood against the counter, trembling, breathless, confused. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "Don't regret it," he said. But I already did. And yet. I wanted more. That was the second sin. I slipped back into my bedroom, heart racing, clothes clinging to my skin. My husband didn't move, didn't stir, didn't suspect a thing. But I couldn't sleep. Because the truth was loud in my chest. I wasn't the same woman who left this bed earlier. And no matter how hard I tried, I knew I would go back to Jonah again. That night wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The beginning of everything I'm about to confess. The night he took me while my husband slumbered. The air that night felt wrong. Too still. Too expectant. Too warm for a marriage that had grown cold. I remember standing by the bedroom door, staring at my husband sprawled across the mattress, deep in the kind of sleep only a man who no longer worries about losing his wife could fall into. His snoring rolled like soft thunder, shaking the silence of the house. And yet, even with him there, I felt alone. Invisible. Untouched. That's when my phone vibrated. One message. One sentence. One fire I should have never walked toward. I'm outside. I need to see you, tonight. My breath left me in pieces. Him. The man who shouldn't even know my address. The man whose touch had rewritten every boundary I thought I had. The man who made my pulse jump in ways my husband hadn't in years. I should have ignored him. I should have turned my phone off. I should have crawled back into bed beside the man I promised my life to. But desire. Desire has its own handwriting. Its own map. Its own power. And mine led straight to the front door. He stood there under the porch light, drenched in shadows and temptation, breathing like he had run miles just to get to me. His eyes scanned me as if he'd been starving for weeks and I was the only meal the universe had left. Do you know what you're doing? I whispered. No, he said. I only know what I want. His voice didn't touch me. It entered me. When he stepped forward, every nerve in my body betrayed me. My back hit the wall beside the door before my mind even caught up. His presence swallowed the air around us. I could hear my heartbeat hammering, fighting between guilt and hunger. Inside, my husband slept. Outside, I was losing myself. I shouldn't be here, I said, breath shaking. And yet, he murmured, leaning closer, you opened the door. His fingers brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, slow, deliberate, devastating. Not inappropriate, not explicit, but charged. Enough to melt reason into liquid heat. Tell me to leave, he whispered. But my lips would not form the words. Instead, I stepped toward him. The night wrapped itself around us as if it, too, wanted to hide our sins. We moved quietly, cautiously, every motion soaked in adrenaline and forbidden warmth. He didn't push boundaries. He didn't rush. He just held my face, soft, aching, as if he had discovered something precious he didn't know he needed. And God. I leaned into that touch. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as a wife. Not as a responsibility. Not as someone to be tolerated. But as a woman. A woman desired. A woman remembered. Inside, the house stayed silent. My husband's heavy breathing echoed faintly through the thin walls. And yet, it felt like another universe. Because at that doorway, in the darkness between loyalty and longing, he claimed something that wasn't his. My night. My attention. My weakness. And I let him. I let myself feel alive in a life that had stopped feeding me. I let myself sink into the danger of him. His voice. His warmth. His closeness. And when he finally whispered, I can't stop wanting you. A shiver ran through me so deep it felt like my truth breaking open. I knew that night would follow me forever. Not because of what almost happened. But because of what it awakened. The part of me I thought had I always believed secrets fade with dawn. But dawn didn't save me. It only made everything louder. I woke up the morning after that night with a heartbeat that wasn't steady, a breath that wasn't clean, and a body that remembered more than I wanted it to. My husband was still asleep beside me, curled into the same position he'd been in when I slipped out of bed hours earlier and returned just before sunrise. He didn't stir. He didn't suspect. He didn't smell the betrayal still clinging to my skin. And yet, I did. I felt it everywhere. In my chest. In my knees. Between my thighs, where his memory still lingered like a slow-burning fire. The man who claimed me while my husband slept. He changed something in me I can't shake. The aftermath of a stolen night. All morning I moved through the house like a ghost. I made breakfast. I washed dishes. I folded laundry. But my hands were busy while my mind replayed everything he did to me. His mouth. His grip. His breath against my neck. The way he whispered that I was finally awake, finally alive. Every time I blinked, I saw him again. His body over mine. His eyes holding mine hostage. The rhythm that sent me to a place I'd forgotten existed. It wasn't love. It wasn't affection. It was possession. Raw. Unapologetic. Uncontrolled. And the worst part? I didn't regret it. Not even a little. When he called me again, I shouldn't have answered. But when I saw his name flash across my phone that afternoon, my breath caught. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "No," I whispered. "I didn't think you would." His voice was low, calm, the same tone he used when he pressed me against the wall last night, stealing every sense I had. "I want to see you again," he added. My knees trembled. My fingers shook. My throat tightened with guilt and desire battling like enemies. "I can't," I said. "Then why are you still on the phone?" My silence told him everything. He chuckled slowly. A sound that went straight down my spine. "I'll find you," he said. "And when I do, you won't run." He ended the call, leaving me breathless, trembling, and painfully aware that he was right. I wasn't going to run. Not from him. Not from what happened. My husband never knew. That night, as my husband held me close, thanking me for being patient with him, my stomach knotted. He had no idea. No clue that while he slept peacefully, another man took me apart and put me back together in ways he never could. He thought our marriage was steady. He thought he understood me. He thought he knew the woman lying beside him. He didn't. And for the first time in my life, I realized that secrets don't break marriages. Truth does. What became of that night? I became different. I became restless. Aware. Awake. Hungry for something I didn't even know I was missing. That night didn't disappear. It grew teeth. It grew claws. It grew roots inside me. Every whisper he left on my skin, every inch he claimed, every reckless second we shared. It became a shadow that follows me everywhere. I don't know where this road leads. I don't know if I'm escaping something, or walking into a bigger fire. But I know this. One night can change a woman. One touch can rewrite her. One betrayal can become her truth. He claimed me while my husband slumbered. And the worst part? A small part of me wishes he'd never stopped.